My wife was caught cheating with 3 men. She was even caught cheating with one of them at a hotel. I am 48 and my wife is 45. I own a real estate company that my dad passed down to me. My wife is a stay-at-home wife, but works part-time at a salon. We don't have kids together, but she does have one son from a previous marriage who lives independently with a few roommates. According to my wife, the reason why she left her husband was because he cheated on her and he was an abusive alcoholic. I wouldn't say our relationship was terrible. I worked long hours for the business, but my business was flexible. So every time I wanted to take off, I did, and I had another employee take over for a couple of days while I made time to spend with my wife. Well, that wasn't enough. Apparently, she started complaining a little more. Not a lot, but enough to get my attention. This is crazy. This man is doing what he can to provide for her, and it's not enough. It's common in these stories. I noticed that she was starting to hang out a little more with her girlfriends. She would cancel our plans and hang out with them even when we had made plans in advance. That's disrespectful. I didn't make a big fuss about it, and I just figured she was going through a phase. But she wasn't going through a phase, she was cheating on me, and I didn't even know it. She didn't exhibit a lot of red flags, she probably did, and I just missed them. But one thing that stood out was that she started to become less affectionate towards me. When we sat on the couch and watched a movie, she would be right next to me, touching me somehow in some way. But she would sit on the other side of the couch with her knees in her chest. I noticed it a couple of times, but I didn't say anything. She goes from sitting next to you all the time to the other side of the couch. Bells should be going off in your head. Now that's drastic. I learned over the years to be observant and pay attention. I made notes about her behavior. I must have missed something along the way. One day I got home a little after 8 p.m. and my wife wasn't home, which was odd. She wasn't scheduled to work. She didn't call me or communicate with me about anything. My wife didn't get home until 1:30 a.m. and I didn't even confront her about it. I made a mental note. The next morning, I got up and went to work. She was still asleep and I didn't wake her up. About 3 hours later, she texted me saying she loves me and hopes I have a good day. I don't know why, but I did not respond to her text. I always responded to my wife, but this time I didn't. When I got home that night, she asked me why I didn't respond to her. I told her I was going to, but I got interrupted at work and spaced it out. She had made dinner for us and we watched a movie, but she sat on the other side of the couch again. But it was weird this time because after we had dinner, we watched a movie and we ended up being intimate that night, and we hadn't had sex in 3 weeks. Fast forward a few days, I got home and decided to check the mail. What surprised me was a postcard from a bank that said, "Welcome new member." I thought, what the hell? I didn't open a new bank account, but wait, it had my wife's name on it. I said nothing when I got inside the house and just put the mail on the kitchen counter. After that, I started to dig a little. I didn't have access to her new account, but I wanted to know why she opened a new bank account. So, when she said she would hang out with her girlfriends, I looked at the computer we shared and the iPad she had. I must have dug for about 3 days. I found nothing on our computer, and her browsing history was completely clean. If her browser history was that clean, she was covering her tracks. She never received any more correspondence from the bank, so I assumed she probably set up paperless delivery. Many people would say, hey, just ask her about it. No, I needed to dig first before I accuse her of anything, as I was taught. We have been married for 11 years, and she has never displayed this type of behavior, and we have never gone that long without being intimate. To me, I needed to get to the bottom of it. Everything came to a head one morning when she went out with her girlfriends and didn't come home until almost 7 a.m. She left the house at 9 p.m. the night before and was gone for almost 12 hours without contacting me. That's crazy. You have a husband at home and you don't come home until the next morning and not a word for 12 hours? Yeah, you know what's up with that. I called and called, no text, no nothing. That incident was a turning point for me. We got into a huge fight over it, and she claimed I was being possessive and controlling because I was trying to see where she was and to make sure she was okay. Well, what husband or boyfriend would not want to make sure his woman is okay? The next few days in our house was like we were strangers, but I was okay with that. While at work one day, I researched private investigators. The last incident was the second time she came home way too late for my taste. I had a phone consultation with the investigator. I told him the only thing I have is her coming home late on 2 occasions and not contacting me at all on either occasion. Later that day, I met the investigator at his office. I gave him pictures of her, what kind of car she drove, her part-time job at the salon, and some of the women she hung out with. The investigator said he would get right on it. It took the investigator almost a month to put everything together, and she was cheating with 3 men. She met them all from dating sites and was even caught being intimate inside one of the guys' cars in the hotel parking lot. We live in New York, which still allows fault-based divorces. I would try my best not to pay alimony, but that would be hard since I made almost triple what she makes. Once the private investigator gave me the evidence that my wife was cheating, I went straight to a divorce lawyer to weigh my options and file for divorce. Now, these private investigators are expensive, but they will save you tons of money in the long run. But in my opinion, they might be useless in no-fault divorce states. Once the divorce attorney reviewed the evidence, he simply said that I had a strong case for an at-fault divorce, but my wife would probably still get something from the divorce even when she was the cause of the divorce. That statement burned me from the inside. My wife cheats on me and still gets paid. It's common, it happens all the time. I had my lawyer file for divorce the day I went to see him. When I got home that day, my wife wasn't home, and she left a note on the kitchen counter saying she was spending the night with one of her girlfriends. At this point, I didn't care. I didn't call her or reach out to her. I took that opportunity to research home prices. This house was going up for sale and was in my name only. About 6 weeks later, my wife was served with divorce papers at her part-time job, which was a total shock to her. She didn't even see it coming, but to my surprise, she only sent one text, and it said, "Okay, see you in court." Well, the day she was served, she left the house, packed up most of her things, and left. Most of the furniture was still there. About 2 months later, the divorce hearing arrives. She tried to get alimony for $3,000 a month, but after the judge saw the evidence from the private investigator, she didn't give her alimony. She did give her 30% of the proceeds of the house when it was sold, and I didn't care about that. I was prepared for that. After the divorce, I ratted her out to her family and friends and told them this is why I divorced my wife. Some of her friends apologized to me because my wife had spun this tale that I was a bad guy and that I was mistreating her. Once they saw proof that my wife cheated on me with these men, everyone's perception of me changed. Fast forward a few weeks, I contacted my cellular provider and changed my number, and I never wanted to see or hear from her again. Last I heard, she was living with one of the men she cheated with. All of the men she cheated with were single, and none of them had wives. Oh, I forgot to mention, she was using the money I was giving her for GP for the dating sites. Yeah, well, I guess she got what she wanted. But in cases like this, you know, when you're going through a divorce, you got to be careful if you're cheating, because financial transparency. If the judge sees that you've used the money that was given to you by your spouse and you used it to cheat on your spouse, you may have to pay that money back. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. Until next time.